I think Canada is worth celebrating. I think Canada is a great historical achievement. It is a country that people all around the world seek to join as new Canadians. It is an imperfect country, but it is still a great country, just as John Macdonald was an imperfect man, but was still a great leader. If we want to get into cancelling every figure in our history who took positions on issues at the time that we now judge harshly and rightly, in historical retrospective. But if that's the new standard, then I think almost the entire founding leadership of our country gets cancelled. Tommy Douglas, who recommended the use of eugenics to sterilize the weak, as he said, if we talk about members of the famous five heroes of Canadian feminism and the fight for equality for women, some of them were advocates of eugenics that we would now regard as deplorable. So if we go full force into cancel culture, then we're canceling most, if not all, of our history. Instead, I think we should learn from our history. We should learn from our achievements, but also our failures. Canada is doing that, just as as Prime Minister Harper made the official apology for the terrible injustice of the Indian residential school system, just as the Government of Canada provided over $3.5 billion in compensation to residential school survivors as a symbol of restitution. And just as Canada has addressed other historic injustices, which we seek to reflect in the draft K-6, social studies curriculum in far more profound ways than ever before. So I think it's much better that we learn from our history, including those periods of great injustice, without seeking to cancel our history. I think we need to know more about it. May know, under the current Alberta curriculum, the subject of Indian residential schools is not raised until grade 10 in the social studies curriculum, and then I believe there's only one reference. The draft K-6 social studies curriculum introduces 10 separate references, including a proposed exercise for students to read aloud from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, to listen to audio and video testimony of residential school survivors, to be educated about the separation of children from their families, about the denial of their language and culture, about all of those terrible aspects of the injustice of residential schools. So what we are proposing is a huge increase in content over the current curriculum with respect to Indian residential schools. And if there are suggestions for more age-appropriate content, this is a draft curriculum. We're open to additional suggestions. If we want to get into a debate about cancelling Canadian history, we need to understand that it means all of our history, and I think that's that kind of destructive spirit is not really the spirit of reconciliation. The spirit of reconciliation is to learn from the wrongs of the past, to seek to remedy them, while knowing our history and moving forward together. I think that's the solution, which is to present young people with, to present all Canadians, including new Canadians, with a balanced depiction of our history, including the terrible, gross injustice and tragedy of the Indian residential schools.